Redditors who grew up with strict parents, what was the craziest rule or punishment you had to deal with? For more infotainment, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new video updates. Thanks for watching. When I was in first grade, I had a writing homework assignment. My dad used to be weird about me erasing, because he wanted me to do it right the first time. I ended up erasing a lot on this homework and my dad took the paper from me, ripped it in half and told me to start over. Turns out it was the last sheet of paper in the entire house, and I don't remember why, but for some reason we couldn't go and buy more paper that night. So ironically, I ended having to completely erase an old homework assignment in order to have a sheet of paper to start over on. I'm 22 now and still give him crap about this. As one should. The word disgusting was banned and could have been considered just as bad as saying. We weren't allowed to close doors unless we were in the bathroom. We weren't allowed to watch Cartoon Network because it was garbage. They actually put a parental lock on Cartoon Network. The worst punishment was one time they decided that we were such bad kids, my sister was like 14, I was 12 that they took everything we owned and bagged it up into garbage bags and made us carry them out to a burn pile, and they burnt everything we owned. All of my childhood memorabilia, pictures, clothes, diaries, everything. Burnt it all up. When it was done burning the next day or so later, my sister and I looked through the ashes and all that was left were 2 silver rings of hers that we cleaned off and kept. Crazy. Yep. My parents never taught me how to clean as a child, but never had a problem throwing everything I owned as a child away when I couldn't clean it fast enough. Now as an adult I frequently break down in tears when cleaning and throwing junk away. My room is a disgusting mess and I hate it so much, but it's less stressful than actually trying to deal with it. Maybe this is why I hate parting with things, even small memories. I was taken out of my home when I was 8 and adopted at 12. I asked if my old stuff, toys, school projects, etc., could be sent to us and they told me it was not important. The only baby photos I have are from my paternal grandmother. I felt left out because I'd look through their photo albums and see 1 or 2 photos of me at most. My adopted siblings called me a hoarder when I tried to keep all my origami or Beanie Babies. I know my childhood was awful, but the memories were still important to me. I was not allowed to use public restrooms. I ruined our Disney trip because of how many times we had to go back to the hotel, not on site, when I was 6. And I quite honestly had accidents when I was far too old to do so because my parents had my teachers reporting bathroom use to them too. There was no place I could safely use the restroom other than home without getting into trouble. Sad face. Finally I got to use public restrooms without punishment when I went to college. No, I'm not kidding. But I got pretty good at hiding restroom use in high school because the high school refused to report it to my parents. Why did none of these teachers spot the abuse? How? STDs end. When I did have to use one, it was coated in toilet paper and they would hold me over it. This rule continued into middle school, BTW, which was hell. My pad leaked so many times, but that was checkable in the garbage. Oh God. This was primarily my grandma's crazy, but now my mom throws a fit with stomping and screaming every time my dad, who has prostate issues, goes to a public bathroom because it makes her mad. I don't even think she knows why, to be honest. I used to be mortified at the ages at which I had public accidents. That would be my answer to those "what would keep you awake at night" threads, but the truth is my family was abusive and crazy, and it wasn't my fault. As a kid, I just thought I should be better and do better. I felt like it was my fault. Now I just get angry at the idiot adults that enforced this, including my teachers. I believe my teachers were told that I had a bowel disease and that my peeing and pooping had to be tracked. How did nobody ask for a doctor's note? Ugh. My grandma would notice the difference in volume when I got home, but the school would also let them know and I would be punished. My grandma died, and I just don't care what my mom thinks anymore, though she is still obnoxious. My mom refuses to use public restrooms herself, and a couple years ago when I was in the middle of a horrible IBS attack she came into the restroom at the restaurant we were at and screamed at me for taking a half hour. I still time things because she is crazy. It had been 5 minutes. They both thought that scientists were wrong and were lying to them about bathrooms. My grandma also taught me that if I took a bath I would get pregnant from my dad's semen in the tub from him wanking. Seriously. I was 12 when my period started and every time it was late, till I learned better from Ed, I seriously thought I was pregnant with my dad's child and that my family would punish me for being a would never believe me that I was a virgin, and I would have to give birth having never had, which would hurt even more. When I found out the truth I just hated them more. No talking at the dinner table other than the occasional "do you want some more of ____ or please pass the ____". We could not talk about anything at all. No small/idle chat was allowed. First time you did it, you got yelled at. Second time was a whooping and then sent to your room, until the next day, without the rest of your meal. I make it a point now with my kids, to chat up a storm each and every meal. Edit. After viewing the replies and reading various PMs I'll answer what I can. It was my dad's rule to not talk at the table. I think this was because he grew up in a very large farming family, 11 boys, 3 girls, and 2 adults. Having to feed a family that size 3 meals a day was likely very time consuming, and with this being a farm there was work to do, so the faster the gang got done eating, the more work could be done. This was back in the late 40s early 50s era. I believe it was a carryover from that. He did loosen up later when he got to be 50 plus, and 2 out of the 3 of us kids were 20 plus. Meal times for my family are hugely social times, especially dinner/supper, as that's when we aren't pressed for time. We talk about whatever comes to mind. We laugh, joke and just talk, and even have the occasional food tossing at one another. I rarely limit discussions unless it's obvious that my kids are not eating. Usually a gentle reminder to have a bite or two gets the desired result. After we eat, each person then takes their dishes to the sink, and then we usually all flop on the couch to continue any bits of conversation we think weren't covered. Working shift work though does put a damper on it sometimes. Sounds like my parents. My dad's loosened up quite a bit in the last 10 years, but growing up all of the usual cuss words were not allowed, along with but, crap, dang, darn, fart. They preferred toot lol, and a bunch of other silly. My parents were so hardcore when they first got married, huge Bible thumpers, that they even went so far as to throw away all Easter Bunny and Christmas cards, pretty much any holiday mail that didn't have a Christian theme to it, even stuff that our grandparents sent us children. I only just found that out a few years ago. Like another example, I didn't see Star Wars until I was about 14, because PG movies were still a big no-no. It was G or basically nothing. Also, my parents had to look up Dr. James Dobson's movie review website to see all the bad things that took place in movies before they would let us watch any. Even video games, it was pretty much no violence, except for cartoon violence. And they kept a close eye on it. Music was the same. I didn't know about any kind of modern music except for Christian alternative music until I started to rebel when I was 15 or so. I had no idea about the classic metal acts or who The Journey or Boston were, even all your mainstream artists. I had no idea they existed. Not that crazy, just something that stuck with me, since I generally consider my parents to be good/caring parents, mainly just overprotective. But when I was 15, I got really depressed and kinda shut down academically and socially. My parents didn't know what to do with me. At one point, they ran out of ways to ground me, and my life was consequently made up of just going to school and coming home and lying motionless in bed, staring at the wall or sleeping. But my grades still hadn't improved, so they thought denying me of privacy/solitude by taking away my bedroom door would persuade me to get my grades up. Spoiler alert, it didn't lol. Edit. I feel like I should address the sentiment in some of the responses that my parents weren't good at parenting. They really are good parents, and we have a much better relationship now. I'm 20 and in college in another state. Before this, they'd tried for months to figure out what was going on with me or how to fix it with more compassionate and pretty typical methods. They really did want to help me get back on track, but my depression manifested primarily as a sullen silence and a passive refusal to do homework, study, do chores, etc. I think the combination of my attitude, refusal to engage, and an oppositional defiant disorder diagnosis from a therapist, who I still believe was biased in favor of my parents in this conflict, considering how she spoke to me and the fact that she brought up her relationship with her kids a few times during our meetings, led them to believe that I just hated them and wanted to hurt them emotionally. I mainly just wanted to be left alone. For the most part. We've moved past that year, as it was hard on all of us, and I view this incident primarily as a mistake made during a difficult time by otherwise very loving parents.